three fears that all humans have in common. Regardless of where you're born, what continent you're born on, what your color is, what your gender is, what century you were born in, we have three common fears that everyone has. See if you would agree with me. The first of these fears is the fear of life not having any purpose or meaning. You know, why am I even here? Why did I get out of bed this morning? And then the longer we live, the more we just see this routine, like get up, go to school, go to this period, go to this, then it's lunch. You see what I'm saying? And it's just like that routine, it just kind of dumbs you down. And it just gets to the point to where you feel like, you know, life doesn't really have a lot of meaning. But the Bible gives us a different picture. In Jeremiah 29:11, very popular verse, I love this verse. Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 11, it says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." So as believers, as Christians, we have the Bible that tells us, yes, our life has meaning. So when you don't get a good night's sleep because your kids aren't sleeping, and you just feel like, I'm tired, it makes a difference. Your life has meaning. You are valuable to those children. You guys who don't have kids yet, you know, what you're doing, never underestimate the fact that you keep showing up, whether it be at school or even jiu-jitsu, that you're making a difference. Like, people are watching you. They may not be telling you, but they're watching you. You know what I'm saying? And yes, we're likely not going to go down in the history books. I know I'm not. You younger people may, you know. I mean, like you find out the cure for cancer or something like that. You're going to get in the history books, but most likely we will not make it in the history books. But that doesn't mean that our life has no meaning. When we're connected with God, our life is tremendously important. Very, very important. So the first fear is no meaning or purpose in life. The second fear is the fear of loneliness, alienation, or isolation. And the weird thing about this is we can be very lonely people even in a crowded city where there are people all around us. So I'm not talking about I'm not talking about just being in the middle of Montana. You know what I mean? I'm talking about that fear of just being lonely, you know, isolated. And the problem with this is we as human beings, according to the Bible, we're created in God's image. So that means we're created for relationship. Like, even those of us who want to be alone very, very much. I love being alone at Oak Mountain. You know, sometimes people will say, "Hey, you want to go ride with me?" You know, I'm like, "No, I don't. I want to be alone," you know? But even as many times as I want to be alone, there are some times where I want to ride with other people. You see what I'm saying? Because that's the way I'm made. I can't help it. There's no person that's completely independent and doesn't need other people. You see, we're made to need each other. And God gives us each other as a gift so that we don't feel lonely. We can have that connection, not only with each other, but also with Him. And so a wonderful verse for fighting the fear of loneliness or alienation is Deuteronomy 31:6. Deuteronomy 31, verse 6. "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them, for the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you." God is always with us, and that is a constant theme through the Bible. God is always with us. My daughter was less than a month old. You know, we thought maybe she had meningitis, and so we had to take her to the ER, and they had to do a spinal tap thing where they bring that fluid out. And I mean, she's so tiny. I mean, you know, like, You got to hold her in one hand, you know. And she was just crying like crazy. And you know, like a newborn cry. I mean, there's nothing like a newborn cry. It's just out of control, you know what I mean? And I remember just, you know, holding her or like touching her and just saying, Daddy's with you. Daddy's with you. I just kept repeating that over and over, you see? And that's what God the Father says to us. No matter what, no matter how lonely we are, how isolated we are, God is always, through the story of Jesus, saying, I'm with you. You're not alone. You may feel alone. I've given you some other people to help remind you you're not alone. But the reality is, I'm here with you, even at your darkest hour, your darkest day. That's the second fear. And the Bible has an answer for it. The fear of loneliness, alienation, or isolation. And the third fear is the fear of non-existence. Basically, when you die, the worms eat you. You know? I remember when I started noticing people I graduated from high school with were dying. Have you guys noticed that yet? Have you? A lot died in high school. Yeah. What about college? Have you noticed some people that you went to college with who are no longer here?
I served with, but
yeah.
Either guys didn't make it home, or a lot of guys, you know, took it into their own hands.
Yeah. There you go.
Expedited.
Yeah, and I mean, you start adding it up, right? You start adding up the number of people who you can think of that you knew who are now dead. And it doesn't take long. Even as a young person, you can start adding them up. And maybe they're older people that are died. I just was thinking of the pastor who was a pastor at a big church in Memphis. The name's not coming to me. He died of throat cancer not too long ago. I mean, he was about 10 years older than me, still pretty young. Thought of another guy who he was younger than me, and he was in his early 50s, way more fit than I was. He got some sort of a fungus, and they couldn't figure out what it was, and they were amputating different parts of his body, and he died. Like, nobody knows why he died. Like, I mean, these add up. You hear about car accidents, right? Like suicide, like you mentioned. I mean, it just goes on, and the longer we live, the more we realize that, man, we're gonna die. We're gonna die. We're not gonna make it. We all have to face death. And you know, hopefully it's later and not sooner, but it's coming. And it's also coming to the people who we love. And so, you know, if you start, and I start thinking about this, and we don't have the hope of Christ, you're talking about depressing. I mean, my goodness, what can be more depressing than that? When you die, the worms will get you, that's it. But the Bible fights this. Actually, Jesus fights it. I love this verse. This is the verse I always think about whenever this fear creeps into my life. In John chapter 11, verse 25, it says, Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live even though he dies. And whoever lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this? Question mark. And I love the fact that Jesus also died. So we're not talking about somebody who doesn't understand what death's about. He knew he was going to die. He was choosing to die. And he says, even though he dies, we're all going to die. So the Bible paints the clear picture of the truth that we will die. So embrace it. Don't rush it, but don't be afraid of it, you know. I think about death as, you know, I've been put to sleep for surgery. And I remember praying sometimes before going to sleep for surgery, is like, well, if I don't wake up, you know, I'm ready to go. You know, I say my last prayer, I pray with my family, and, you know, that has to be as close to what I think death must be. You know what I mean? If you don't look the right way when you're pulling out on the Highway 31 and you get T-boned and you're killed instantly, it must be similar to being put to sleep, you know, for a surgery. And it's going to happen. So there's no use in being afraid of it. Accept it. But know that that's not the final answer. The final answer is Christ says, even though we all will die, we will live because of Him being the resurrection and the life. So those are the three fears. I didn't come up with those three fears. They're actually, there were some philosophers from the 1800s called the existential philosophers. One of them was named Kierkegaard. Have you heard that name before? Yeah. And they came up with those three fears of all human existence. I think that's priceless. And I learned about them from this book. I know I told you a few weeks ago that I don't read books anymore. But back when I did read books, this is an awesome book. I've got it all highlighted and everything. It's called The Gospel and Its Meaning, A Theology for Evangelism and Church Growth by Harry Poe. And he was one of my seminary professors. I love the guy. I looked him up to see if he was still alive, by the way. He was, I did. He was.